everything in life can be cultivated. It was like 2018, 2019, and then 2020, the world stopped. Everyone was like, oh, terrible time to be in events. And so we begged to differ. We leaned in with curiosity and said, what do our partners need from us right now? And it was community. And so we took to webinars, podcasts, and blogs and saying, don't cancel your fundraisers. Let us help you do them virtually. And as a result of that, we helped about 300 nonprofits raise $50 million during COVID when we couldn't gather in person.
Strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle in your family business. This is Fearless Family Business. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fearless Family Business Show. I'm so glad you're here today. My guest today is Joey Goone, and he is the president of Utopia Experience, a nationwide event management company redefining what events can achieve. And get this, under his leadership, Utopia has helped over 350 nonprofits raise more than $50 million through live, hybrid, and virtual events. And it's a family business that was started by his mother and ultimately run by he and his father. And their story is incredible. Joey's an incredible storyteller. I really enjoyed this episode. We talked a lot about how to lead with love as a core value, how to manage challenges through courage and curiosity. And we had, even at the end of the show, we talk a little bit about exit planning, and he's got a unique perspective on that. So please enjoy this wide-ranging discussion with Joey Goone. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and like it. Well, welcome, Joey. I'm so glad you're here, man. I'm really excited for this conversation. We were talking for like about 10 or 15 minutes offline already and just like already getting into this show. And yeah, I'm pumped for this conversation. Thanks for being here, man.
I am too. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor. And I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving me a platform to come on and share my story and the family biz.
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, I tend to on this show, Fearless Family Business, I tend to interview probably 60% family business owners, operators, and maybe 40% advisors, people on the sidelines that are kind of helping out on that side. So I try to keep that balance. But what I love about the conversations that we've already have is that you are just so, you're so dynamic, and you have all of these great insights, and you have all of this optimism. And I kind of want to start there as far as like just the attitude that you're bringing, the positivity. I know in the space that you work, and we'll get into that in a second, it is probably very important to keep that positive mindset. But how do you maintain that? I kind of want to start there. Is how do you maintain that positivity amidst, working in a family business, running a company, being the president and running a company? How do you maintain it?
It's such a good question.
I like to go right in with the burners, man. Right.
Yeah. I can give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
Right before we hit record, before I jumped on and opened my laptop, I was downstairs doing Wim Hof breathing. And I think it actually was you, Adam. You recommended the Tony Robbins priming exercise to me a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Maybe it was me because I know that I've done Wim Hof since like 2015. And so, yeah, right when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know where you're going with this. So yeah, absolutely.
So I love finding ways to shift my physiology. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, before I came on the pod today, I did 20 minutes of Wim Hof breathing in the basement, which for those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically 30 to 40 deep breaths followed by like a 90-second to 2-minute long breath hold. And it's just amazing what it can do to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, to get us out of the survival mode, which so many of us just live in that mode because we're constantly bombarded with stimulus and emails and things to do. Got to pick the kids up from here and running over there. And I'm a glorified Uber driver today and all the things. And so anything that I can do to get myself into that creative state, which is out of the head and into the heart, I'm all in, and I'm going to try it once. And so for Wim Hof, luckily for me, someone introduced me to it. I tried it once. I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it for about 2.5, 3 years now. And I just have like little things like that, yoga, reading, getting out of my mind and into someone else's through reading, jumping into an ice bath to shift my physiology, doing hard things. Can we cuss on this show?
Sure. Yeah. Like bring it.
Doing hard shit.
Yes.
Dude, like I'm going to I'm going to run a half marathon this year. And one of my friends said, do a
Nice.
marathon. He's like, you're being a baby, do a marathon. And I'm like, well, I'm doing something hard, something that I haven't ever done before.
Right.
And it up levels my energy and helps me grow in character as a result. And then I bring that energy as this sort of newfound essence of self-discovery. And I'm like, ooh, I didn't know that part of me existed. Let me lean into that. And so all of these little things just become nuances that become a flavor of who I am. And then I could bring that positive energy into my work.
That's so great. I love that. And I found that too. I mean, just the idea of focusing on whatever it is. I mean, whatever task it is, whether it's the cold plunge or breathing or reading, all of those things to me point to just being present in the moment and not thinking about like what's going to happen in the future, what's going on in my inbox, what's happening in my day to day. It's just getting you out of that box and, focusing on you in the moment. And is that what you're finding? Is just like in the moment you're feeling, that kind of stuff is just helping you stay present?
That's exactly it.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great way to start these shows now, is just like start with, hey, how do you stay positive? I mean, then that's just like anyway. So I appreciate you sharing all that. But I'd love to like kind of get a sense of your origin story. Where tell us about how you got into business, how you grew up, in the family business, what the family business is all about, and catch us up to where you're at now.
So for that question, I go back to when I was 9. My brother, Mark, who's older, was obsessed with basketball. And so he and my dad never missed watching a game on TV, especially during the Michael Jordan, like the Dream Team era with Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen. And so one day my dad gave me a choice and he said, I could either join them on a trip to Chicago to go watch the Dream Team play live in the playoffs, or we could rent a lawnmower and spend the day cutting the grass together when he got back from the game. And he knew that sports, it just wasn't my thing. And so I chose the lawnmower.
Wow.
He knew how much I don't know what it is, man. Like going back to like the Sony camcorder that my dad used to put on his shoulder and film us all as kids. Like my brother and sister were always back in the, off in the distance running around playing. And I had this like toy leaf blower and lawnmower that I was pushing around the yard. And it was like one of those bubble ones that eventually, when I grew up, it became one with a motor. And so, without hesitation, I chose the lawnmower, and it sparked something in me. It wasn't, like long after that I launched my first lawn business. And I would go to, door to door with curiosity and fearlessness of a kid chasing a dream. And I heard no more times than I could count, but I kept going because I was a kid and I had zero fear, zero hesitation, and a ton of passion. And so that like bold, relentless optimism that I had is something that I feel like we adults often lose sight of, but I'm convinced it's one of the most valuable traits that we can hold on to.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. I want to kind of pause there because you're touching on like something that is a skill that I hear a lot within the world of entrepreneurship leadership, is just this ability to persist, through rejection, through anything, just to have this, not only the creative mind to think, hey, I can go door to door. I can create value here, and I can get a return on that, but also push through the rejection till I get a yes. Do you feel like that's just part of the DNA, or is it something that you build? Is it a passion? What do you feel?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I just finished this book, Mindset, by Dr. Carol Dweck. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. Everything in life can be cultivated. Everything. Your intelligence can be cultivated. Your ability to get on a podcast and do what we're doing right now, that it can be cultivated. Your confidence can be cultivated. Your everything. If you're looking to lose weight, you can train and coach and guide yourself, and that's a skill that can be honed, right? So I genuinely believe that you can learn to do anything through courage and curiosity.
Courage and curiosity. So like expand on that a little bit more. How practically, what does that look like as far as tapping into courage and curiosity? How do we start? And then B, how do we apply that on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, I wasn't prepared to answer this question. I like to think that I think as human beings, we get to a point in our lives, and, I'll speak for myself. I got to a point in business where I felt as though the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And it made me feel dumb. And so I think you can resist that and own what you have and say, "Ooh, this is it. I need to cling on to this because I can control what I know in this little bubble." Or you can be completely okay with being vulnerable and saying, "I don't know shit." And that gives me the curiosity and the courage to say, "You know what, Adam? I don't know a damn thing. I don't know anything, but I'm committed to showing up and learning from you and gleaning insights from you and pulling wisdom and nuggets from what makes you you. And hopefully that makes me a better person as a result." So that's just how I try and approach business now, because you can go in one of two very different directions. Try to control what you know and just hold on to it, being the authoritarian figure and the sage on the stage in your office and like the one that has all the answers. Or you could just go and ask better questions and realize you don't have any of the answers. And so for me, that's the path I chose, and it's been very enlightening.
I love that. It reminds me of something I learned about maybe a few years ago that somebody shared with me, and it was really insightful about how we learn and how we become experts in something, or how we go from A to B in terms of what we know. And I don't remember what it was called. I feel like it was called something like the curiosity gap or something. But at one point, it's like where you start, your starting point is this point of this ignorance where you feel like you know more, or you feel like you know more than you actually do. And you start there in most things. Like you might, like lawnmower business, you might think, "Oh, I know how to do that. I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm going to go one way and then I'm going to go another way." But there's probably a lot more nuance to it. And then like the more you do it, the more you realize what you don't know. And to your point, you kind of feel like you kind of feel like an imbecile that just doesn't understand it. But and then a lot of people at that point kind of give up and they stop doing the thing because they realize, "Oh, it's frustrating. It's harder than I thought. I'm done." But then other people kind of take that curiosity farther and they keep going back up. So I love that approach. That just seems like you were kind of navigating that the way that you found and discovered it.
Yeah. And you mentioned like that I found and discovered it. The funny thing is like, I have never really, like I've started to believe in myself at this point in my life. I'm 35. I've really started to develop a deep sense of like security and confidence in who I am. But that wasn't always there. And what I did is like, so my mentor is Hal Elrod. For those of you out there who know Hal, he wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. I love that man to death. And one of the things that he taught us to do when he was coaching us is place your belief in others' belief in you until your belief catches up. And so a lot of things that I've adopted in my mindset, those are just stolen beliefs, ideas, values, things that I've heard rattled off on other podcasts or books that I've stolen from someone else and applied them in my life. So like the mastery thing, Tony Robbins talks about 10,000 hours to mastery. And so when I was like, I suck at business, he gave me permission through his podcast and the books that I read to suck at business. It's like, you can suck. Go out and like, compress time by going in front of other influencers, people who are where you want to be. And so I've invested in, the Tribe of Millionaires. I've invested in GoBundance and EO and YPO and think tanks and masterminds of people who know far more than I do. And I think that it's just a journey. And so I wasn't always this way, but the more I immerse myself in that curious mindset, the more permission I give myself to suck at things, because I'm just at the beginning of my journey, no matter what day it is, no matter where I am in life. It's just, there is no destination. There's no mountaintop of like, I figured everything out. Everything in life is a journey. So for me, that's just giving me a little bit of like grace and permission to suck at things and continue to grow as a result.
That's great. It's a beginner's mindset. And I like that because it almost implies that the beginner's mindset is an abundance mindset, because you've got nowhere to go but up. And that's so great. So you started, at 9 years old, you're starting to, mow lawns, starting to drive that. So you have that entrepreneurial spirit pretty early on. What's going on? So the Utopia Experience, that's the business that you run now. That's the family business. What was going on there while you were doing that? Was that already started? How was that playing into it?
Yeah. So my mom, let's see, I'm 8, 9 years old, start the lawn business. Embedded in me now is this entrepreneurial spirit. Fast forward to 2002. My mom now has the kids to a point, the three of us. So my older brother, Mark, myself in the middle, my younger sister, Melissa, we're all teens at this point. And so my mom has sort of this void of purpose in her life where she's at a crossroads of like, what do I do with the rest of my life? She's a part-time teacher. She was a full-time mom at home. Outside of being a teacher, she would work crazy hours, just making sure that us little munchkins had a good foundation and stability. And so when that was gone, she, I think like many of us experienced sort of that void of purpose. And my mom, it was like kind of like a perfect storm, and where there was this intersection of perfect timing and opportunity for my mom when she was planning my sister's bat mitzvah. And so she just had a really awful experience with another local event company in St. Louis. And she said, this is it for me. This is the purpose void that I've been missing. I can take this and run with it because all of my friends are planning these. It's a Jewish coming to faith ceremony where the kids, you hit 12, 13 years old and you have a bar or a bat mitzvah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so all of her friends had the same age kids. She knew it was an opportune moment for her. So she dove into launching Utopia Entertainment, which is entertainment at the time. And it became her baby. She grew it from, our family childhood home. The kitchen became her office. The basement became the AV warehouse for all the equipment. And the garage was like the studio where all of the staff members would come over to have meetings.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So it was now as that was happening, were you being pulled in or you and your siblings, were you guys being pulled into the business at the time, doing any of the work, or were you just kind of watching on the side as your mom was driving this thing?
I was the glorified roadie. And so I couldn't just sit there and watch my dad lug these heavy speakers and stages up a 15-degree hill on the side of our house.
Yeah.
I jumped in to help him out. And so he's like, great. And he tagged me in. And so I would go with him every once in a while. I was still, what was I, 13, 14 at the time when this launched. And so I still had other priorities, which was a lack of responsibility, being outside, running around when kids actually were outside and not glued to their iPads. And my parents would say, come home when the street lights come on, right? That's the old cliche. And so that's what I was doing. But every once in a while, I'd go help my dad. And I found a lot of joy in attending these event experiences and helping him, just spending that bonding time with him and my mom, setting up these events and then actually seeing all these people come together. And we were the ones who were putting together all of the puzzle pieces that then people could come into the space later on that evening to celebrate together and create community, which was really awesome to be a part of.
That's amazing. I love that. And how has it evolved since then? So you're kind of out of the house. I know, we've talked recently, you're in an office and you're running these events nationwide. So kind of talk to us about the bridge between where you were then to where you are now and how you got into the business officially, not just as a roadie.
The turning point for me was, it was when I attended a Front Row Summit. Do you know John Vroman?
Yeah, the Front Row Dads. Is that right? Yeah.
So I attended his summit in 2017. And what they did at that summit unlocked something in me that hadn't been unlocked at any other event in any other environment. And what they did was it was a personal development retreat and there was a charity tied to the retreat. So we raised money during the retreat. They raised money with various auction items and a paddle raise. And you got to, there were some really cool speakers. They auctioned personal time off with some of the speakers. And so they played this video, Adam, of this little girl. And her wish was to go to a concert. She had a terminal illness, but she was the most optimistic, glowing, beautiful soul. And after they played that video of her asking for her wish to come true to go to a concert, and you see her walking the four walls of the hospital, it's really all she knows. She's like 7, 8, 9 years old. Shouldn't be experiencing this at this point in her life, but she was. And what they did is they had this community of 100 of us. They're like, you now feel connected to her, right? Like,
Right.
raise your hand if you feel, and all of us were like, our faces were leaking. We're hugging each other. We're like, we can't believe we have the power now as a community to make her wish come true. And of course, we all raised enough money to not just make her wish come true, but make like 15 other wishes come true for other kids just like her.
Yeah.
And John asked us to write a letter to Hannah and offer her words of love and encouragement and connection. You guys are 100 strangers, but you're about to become her family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shift that happened in me. We then became a community of 100 people that stood up to be a part of, being her miracle. And I was like, this is what I'm not getting from bar and bat mitzvahs that I can get from the corporate world, from nonprofit events, from events that have, that's not to say that bar and bat mitzvahs don't have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But this gave us a different sense and a new sense of like profound purpose. It ignited something in me. And I was like, that's where we're headed. That's our new North Star.
Yeah.
We've got to do it, events like that have that level of connection and community and purpose tied to them.
That's so amazing. If you're a family business owner or operator and you're looking to get more control over your business, I would love to talk with you. I want to give you a special invite to request a free 90-minute workshop with me to learn the powerful tools of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Just shoot me an email at adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. Again, that email is adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And so now you're at a point where you've not only done a few more events like that since 2017. You've done something like 350 events across the nation for nonprofits, and you're putting together not just events, you're putting together experiences. Isn't that right? Can you kind of walk us through how you're creating how you're creating these events and what they look like?
Yeah, for sure. So we got into that scene, that the nonprofit space at the right time. It was like 2018, 2019, and then 2020 the world stopped.
Yeah. And
everyone was like, oh, terrible time to be in events. And so we begged to differ. We leaned in with curiosity and said, what do our partners need from us right now? What do they need from us right now more than ever? And it was community. And specifically for our nonprofit clients, they rely on those fundraising galas to bring in money so that they can deliver experiences and money for the recipients, for the people that are benefiting from the charity. And so they couldn't bring people together physically in person. And what happened was it was like the first week of March in 2020, the world shut down. We were actually slated to fly to Chicago that following weekend and produce a 350 person in-person gala in Chicago.
Wow.
And the event organizers came to us and said, obviously we can't do it. Can you guys play? And they're freaking out. And so they're like, can you guys find a solution for us? What do we do? So we cleared out our warehouse. We turned it into a virtual production studio, and we produced that first gala that weekend for this private school up in Chicago. And they raised about $100,000 more than they did the prior year in person.
Wow.
And so we took to webinars and podcasts and blogs and saying, don't cancel your fundraisers. Let us help you do them virtually. And as a result of that, we helped about 300 nonprofits raise $50 million during COVID when we couldn't gather in person.
That's incredible. That's just incredible. I mean, and all from this simple thing that you'd mentioned earlier, and I won't say simple, but the concept is simple. You'd mentioned earlier courage and curiosity. And I imagine it took a lot of courage to make that leap into something completely different and something more meaningful, but also the curiosity piece that you said you leaned into. Just being willing to ask the right questions instead of being, the woe is us, we're in the wrong industry, might as well close our doors. You ended up helping and adding more value to people than you otherwise would have.
Adam, it was a simple shift.
Yeah.
Like we can do this in bit, like this is so it sounds so intuitive, but it's often overlooked. What I'll do now is I'll block out time on my Friday and I will call 5 clients of ours and I'll say, what am I missing right now that you need from us? Just a simple question like that.
Yeah.
And when I asked 10 nonprofits, from the onset of COVID, what they needed, they're like, we need to do our largest annual events. And so we knew we had a responsibility to help them do that so that they could remain financially viable companies.
Wow. That is such a good question too. I love that question. What am I missing now that you need or that you're in need of? Did I capture that? Yeah. That's such a great question because and I can almost see the reluctance to ask that question because now you're admitting, well, there may be something that we're doing wrong and I don't want to open up the can of worms. I don't want them to like start flooding us with all these problems on a Friday, no less. But what did you find from asking that kind of question? What were you finding from that?
Great conversations.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they were things that actually are not. I became a little bit, and I have become a little bit of like a therapist. That I got one of my favorites was, well, my husband did this thing last night, and we had a blowout argument, and the other thing happened, and but for me, what I've become to our clients is less transactional and like an actual friend, a family member, because I'm involving myself in their lives in a way that like creates an invitation for me to be a friend. And like, I'm not just hitting them up when I'm looking for a sale or for them to come on, produce an event with us. Yeah. I genuinely care about them. And that's, one of my core values is love. And so I just want to show up for them and be that loving person. Even if in that moment, all I'm doing for them is I'm just a person that is there to listen. I'm an empathetic witness. I'm not selling anything. I don't have an agenda. I'm just there to connect with them and be a person that they can chat with.
I love that. That's where we're adding value. Add value first, and then you build in the life later. And I'm curious to know. So this transition that you made in 2018 because of this changing event, what was your role? Were you the president of the company at the time? Were you still in it? Was your mom still involved? How did the company look at that time?
Yeah. So, my dad and I never really put titles on it. So my mom, unfortunately, lost her battle with cancer in 2013.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And so, thank you. It sucks. It's still one of those things that, I'm dealing with the emotional waves that they just, they come and they hit you.
Yeah.
And so for anybody out there who's ever lost a loved one, you get it. You resonate with that, I'm sure. And so, she lost her battle. And in, from 2013 to 2017, 18-ish, I was kind of straddling two worlds. I was in wealth management, working 50% there. And then I was working 50% in Utopia, trying to scale it, and 100% in neither. And then I finally mustered up enough courage to really, dive into the deep end and go full time with Utopia. And I did that for about 2 years. And in 2019, my dad was finally able to, I think it was 2018, 2019. We were finally able to financially afford him to bring him on full time. And so what I was getting at in the wealth management firm was a lot of money, but a lack of purpose, a void of purpose. What I was getting from Utopia was a tremendous amount of purpose. And when I jumped in, no money.
So as is typically the case.
Right. Yeah, so the goal there was really to grow it to something that could financially sustain us and get to a point where we could hire more people so that I could focus, on segmenting my role and really aligning with my superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And so when you made that shift to kind of changing to this new model, that was a big jump. How was that received? How did you manage that change? I know in a lot of legacy companies where you build your business on something that is the thing, a lot of times that becomes that sacred, that sacred cow. How did you make the change? Or was there any resistance to it? Maybe that might be a better way of asking.
Not the thing about it is like when I first started dipping my toe into the Utopia water in like right after my mom passed away, the company was doing about $100,000 and it was just a hobby.
Yeah.
it was sustaining. It was a great hobby for my mom. It was able to afford her, some awesome things in life, and help sustain the lifestyle a little bit. My dad was the breadwinner in the family. And so, after she paid out all the expenses, in the company side, she was left with, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And so it wasn't ever really a company, a true business in the way that it currently is today. Until it became so when my dad and I really dove in full time in 2018. And so I've heard stories of, friends who sort of come into legacy business and they have those sacred cows. And for us, our story was just a little bit different than that, and that we were really building it from the foundation up.
Yeah.
Which, we can have a conversation over, which one's more challenging. And I genuinely don't know. I think the sacred cow I know is that's probably a very difficult thing to sort of navigate through if you're a legacy business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the way that you're talking about it too is similar to a friend of mine that I'd interviewed a number of episodes ago, Damon Lemby. He described it. He was a second generation family business owner as well, who kind of shifted his dad's computer company into more of a computer-based training company. There was a big leap there. And he talked about it from the perspective of just being every generation thinking of itself as generation one, instead of being like, yeah, we're Gen 4, or even thinking about like how the previous generations built it. And that founder vision is so important still. But there's this idea that we're the entrepreneurs that are going to grow it to the next level. And so we need to have that entrepreneurial spirit, and we need to grow it we need to have some kind of vision to grow it forward. So I love that aspect of kind of you were making it into that first generation business again, almost. So that sounds fascinating. I love that. Yeah. So thinking about like, as far as like the experiences that you're trying to provide to clients now that we're out of COVID, now that you're probably doing, I imagine you're doing live events again and building those up.
Back to life.
Yeah. Back to life. What do those look like? How are you, like, I'd love for you to walk us through like the typical event that you're doing.
So yeah. And just like zooming out real quick before zooming in is like,
sure.
So the vast majority of the events that we're doing now are masterminds, summits, and conferences. And like simply put, when a conference organizer calls a hotel to book their summit, mastermind, or conference, they're given a menu of options for food and beverage. They're given, here are the hotel rooms, run of the house or whatever, a couple different options for them to check a couple boxes. And the audio visual / production company is usually pushed to a conference organizer by the hotel.
Yeah.
And so those production companies, those AV companies in-house at the hotels may ask questions like, hey, how many lights do you want on your stage? How many speakers are you going to have in each room? How many tracks are going on? How many microphones do you need? How many projectors and how many techs? And when conference organizers, and that's fine, but for us, that's kind of like the bare minimum. You got to do more than that. And so when a conference organizer works with us for the first time, they're impressed because our team is taking their understanding of event production from 1-dimensional to 12-dimensional.
Right.
And the difference for us really lies in understanding the distinction between the events business and the business of events. And so the events business is like obsessed with logistics and task lists and run of show and agenda. And don't get me wrong, like execution and those things are important, but we take it one step further because my team has kind of been along for this journey, this ride in scaling this company. They've been with us for such a long time. And so they've seen my investment in self-development. They've watched our company grow. They've attended all these different business conferences and personal development retreats that we attend as groups. And so they're starting to think about our clients' events as businesses instead of just events like something that we do. And so I'll give you an example of how to treat the business or the event as a business. And it really comes back to that feeling that the Front Row Foundation created for me and for all of us in that space. And that is psychological safety and understanding the importance of neuroscience and community building. And so what we do at events, at conferences specifically, is we if you think about when you attend a conference, you might have, your baggage got lost, you missed your flight, you're stressed out, you're an entrepreneur or you're running a bit, whatever you're doing, you're a professional and you have to go and do this thing. Or maybe you're going because you enjoy it, but you're still stressed out.
Right.
Our goal as the event producer is the minute you get to that venue and that hotel, you are able to let out a woosah, sigh of relief, knowing that, I'm in the right place and I'm with my people. And so something little that we did is at a conference we just produced in Dallas, we had TV screens in the lobby with a QR code that conference attendees, we invited them to scan. And it was a little welcome video. And on the welcome video, one of our sponsors, by the way, this is a brilliant sponsorship. If you're trying to engage your sponsors in a unique way, have them do this. This is brilliant. So attendee showed up, 30-second video on the TV screen. You take your phone, you scan it. A sponsor comes on the screen and says, hey, we just want to let you know you are in the right place. You're not at the wrong hotel. You're shutting off their survival fight or flight mode and you're getting them into a state of, okay, cool. I'm with my people. I made it. I'm good. Then what we did is on that video, the sponsor said, my company paid for 30-minute sessions for every attendee at this hotel that is attending this conference. It's covered. Go check in, set your bags down. We'll see you tonight at registration. And in between now and tonight, go enjoy a massage on my company.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. I love that.
So we got massages sponsored. Instead of just printing a silly logo on a piece of paper that's going to get tossed in the trash for this particular sponsor, you think that sponsor was remembered? Dude, his company was the freaking celebrity.
Sure.
People were going up, high-fiving. That company is going to get a shitload of business because they provided that for people when they're stressed out, they're traveling, they're in that mindset, they're tightened hearts, and then they get there and they're like, wow, someone cares about me. This is my community. I love it. And because that invitation to just open up, you create you create the space for real learning and real community to happen when you do little things like that.
Yeah. Well, what inspires me about that truly is just the amount of thought that goes into the ideas that you put in there, the creativity, of course, that goes into that, but also the care for every individual who's going to walk into that conference and be spending time there, that you're making it not just valuable, but safe, like psychological safety. And that takes me back to this idea you shared, that one of your biggest core value being love. Love to kind of dive into that a little bit more and just discover how you came to that conclusion that, you're leading with love. What brought you to that core value?
Personal development.
Yeah.
Attending masterminds like Hal's.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went to a mastermind after my mom passed away. And one of my buddies, John, do you know John Israel?
I don't know.
He wrote a book called Mr. Thank You. Mm. And his goal with his book his book was to document his journey of writing 5 thank you notes a day, every single day for 365 days.
Wow.
And the book documents what actually happened in his life as a result when he doubled down on gratitude. He did more than double down on it. Anyway, so we're at a mastermind together. This was right after my mom passed away. I'm trying to learn how to grow this business, this legacy business that she left behind. I'm carrying the burden of that responsibility because I didn't want to be a failure who let mom's company, fail.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure it all out. And I get invited to this personal development retreat. John Israel looks at me and we're having this amazing conversation. He goes, hey man. And this is like when he's sort of in the thick of writing letters, gratitude letters for people. And he says, why don't you write your mom a letter of all the things that you never told her that you want to tell her right now? And so I did. I wrote that letter. I wrote the letter on the plane flight home. And I went to the grave where she was buried and I read it to her.
Oh, wow.
And it helped me deal with so much emotional trauma that I've been holding on to and suppressing, that I said to myself, no more. And what I mean by that is no more will I not take responsibility and accountability. And so that has just become a sort of a ripple that has become like a flavor or a principle in my life now, that before I suppressed those emotions because I didn't want to deal with them. Because as men, I think we're oftentimes told that vulnerability is weakness. And as soon as I embraced the vulnerable side of myself, I actually fell in love with myself. And I don't mean from a place of arrogance or smugness. I mean from a place of like radical self-acceptance of like, I can be vulnerable and I can be emotional and I could stand up in a meeting and take accountability for a mistake that I made or a failure that I have and not feel judged because I don't judge me. And I just think that's such a powerful place to come from. And so after writing that letter for my mom, I embraced love as my strongest core value because the world needs more love and love is all that matters. I genuinely feel that way.
What has been the most significant change that you've seen in your life since embracing that core value or making that transition?
You stumped me. That's such a good question. When I was younger, I used to have zero stress. All of us did, right? And so I think about the days where I would play mindless video games like Halo or Call of Duty or Mario Party with my friends for hours upon hours with no regard and no responsibility because we were kids and we're just playing in the bedroom.
Right.
Responsibility didn't exist. And then we become adults and we become hardened by the circumstances of life, of rejection. If we're running a business, someone cuts us off in traffic, our hearts harden. And over time, we don't realize it. But one day we wake up and we're angry and we're stressed out all the damn time. And what happens is we cut off the vital circulation of our blood to our brains and our hearts that fuels our creativity and that fuels love. And it kind of sounds like a ponder platitude or a cliche, but for me, like embracing the journey as the destination is the most powerful thing that I can do. And so whenever I get stressed out or my heart is hardened or I sense that like in any given moment, in any given time that my heart is, I'm tightening, I just lean back into love. And so for me, the most profound shift that I can make is to recognize the stress and accept it, embrace it in that moment, and then diffuse it and let it go. Because I don't want to be, I've had so many friends, 35, 40 years old, just dropping of heart attacks, healthy guys, healthy gals, like just dropping. And so, or my mom, cancer, who was taken at 51 years old, just far too soon. And so I think that if I could, and I don't know medically, biologically, scientifically, if, love is I still believe in medicine and like love's not going to maybe cure all of those ailments, but it's just such a beautiful place to come from an internal state where that I can diffuse stress and diffuse pressure and diffuse tension in my life in a way that I wasn't able to before.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that answer. And I appreciate you going down that path with me a little bit. Cause I want to learn I want to learn other people's perspective on how love has impacted them. It's the biggest 4-letter word that there is, of course. And it's one of the values I try to promote on this show, especially from the standpoint of family businesses. We lead with love. That's why we start a family business in the first place, for the most part, is we want to increase the love in our lives with our families. We also want to increase the legacy. And of course, we want a great lifestyle. But in terms of that love, do you have kids now or anything? Do you have kids that you're thinking about bringing into the family business at some point?
So this is, if you're listening and you're not watching, I'm holding up a picture right now of my wife, Steph, and then our 2-year-old daughter, Sage. This was from Chicago over the summer.
Nice.
And so I've got these amazing reminders sitting on my desk of all of the love, the abundance of love that I have in my life. And, I don't know if Sage will join the family business, and perhaps that opportunity will be there for her. I just want to encourage her, and after reading this book, Mindset, there were just so many stories in there about parents who sort of had their own beliefs of what they wanted their kids to become, and it robbed their kids of their dreams. Right. And so all I want to do is hold space for her to become whoever she wants to become, pursue whatever she wants to pursue. And I'm there to guide and support wherever I can. And just ultimately to make sure that she's a loving human being.
I love
and
that.
If she wants to join the family business at some point in the future and that opportunity is there, I'll say, hell yeah.
That's so great. I mean, and that leads us to a conversation we had before we jumped on the show, and we promised that we'd have to connect on that. And that's really this idea of building a business that is either sellable or exitable or somehow creating the value in the business to give a freedom of choice. And whether that choice is to sell it, to let it go, to keep it going, or to pass it on to the next generation, should we choose. I'd love to know your thoughts on that, on like what you're planning as far as future and legacy for the business, and where you plan to go from here.
So I just go back to the analogy of playing the game. And I've just started to think about business as a video game. Like the little kid that I talked about earlier, the little kid hitting buttons on a controller. I'm not always going to hit the right buttons on the controller. I'm not always going to advance to the next level or beat the boss in Mario, Super Mario. Right. But if I approach it with love and courage, and most importantly, so long as the business is giving me a new challenge and is fun, for me at this point in my life, that's all that matters. And so that's how I approach my friendships and my business, is just trying to be a light to people who need it, trying to bring joy to each interaction, and to ultimately, and most importantly, to have fun. And so long as the business provides that for me, I'm in it for the long haul. But maybe in 5 years, I wake up and we have another kid and my priorities are like, I'm not, I don't know, man. Like, and I'd almost pose the question to you, because I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand. Like, is there a right answer to that? Because I almost feel, and I think this has been a topic of conversation in my EO Forum group. Sometimes you look at people who have exited the business or been acquired, and you're like, oh, they've finally figured it out and they've made it. But is that actually the case?
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've been putting a lot of thought into it too, especially and selfishly, one of the primary drivers to starting this podcast is learning more about the perspectives of people like yourself who are running the business, who are working in the family business, who are, serving as advisors on the side of businesses, family businesses. And, what I think I'm coming to here is that there's millions of family businesses on the planet. They make up 60% of the US GDP. And even more so in the world as a whole. I mean, it's more pervasive throughout the rest of the world. And I think for all of those millions of companies out there, you're going to get millions of answers. And I think that's the nature of what it comes down to, is just being self-aware enough to be open-minded and being open-minded enough to figure that out, for what's best for you and your kids and your family, and what's best for the legacy there. There's only so many Rockefellers that exist that can go on and have legacy wealth and businesses that last forever. Others do get sold and they're successful exits. Others sell and give their kids opportunities to do more. I think we just have to do our best and learn from each other.
That's a great answer.
Maybe it's a cop-out answer, but but I think it's true.
I concur. It resonates with me deeply. Yeah.
Have the conversations, though. That's the biggest part. Is we should be having these conversations. We should be openly talking about it and learning what the kids want, learning what the family wants.
And I almost I want to give permission to any family business owner out there who's listening to this. Like, you don't have to have the answer right now. That's okay. I just gave myself permission to not know what's going to happen in 5 years down the road and 10 years down the road with the family business. I just bought my dad out last summer. Yeah. And so, but he's still a strategic advisor. He's still on board as a consultant, still paying him those fat checks every month, making sure that, he's taken care of, because he did help to sort of guide the North Star and build the company. And, we have a great relationship, and I love having my dad around. And, he's going to knock on my door in not less than 5 minutes and watch our daughter Sage with his partner Dee Dee, so that my wife and I can go out, because we have a standing date night on Thursday nights where we go out for dinner every Thursday, and grandma and grandpa come over and watch our daughter Sage.
I love that.
And so I've just recently taken over the family business, so I have no idea what the heck I want to do with it in 5 years, 10 years. And if you feel the same way out there, that's okay. You don't have to have an exit strategy right now.
I love that answer, and that's such a great permission to give. We think we have to have all the answers and have that have that perfection, and yeah, just be okay with where you're at now. I love that answer, and I certainly want to respect your time and your ability to get to date night as soon as possible. So I'm gonna let you go, even though I have a lot more. I think we do need to have a round two though, because I'd love to dig in more to some of this. I love chatting with you, Joey. This has been really great.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, where can people find you?
Eric's going to chuckle at this because I know he's editing the pod. And I said this at the end, wrapping up on his pod. There are a lot of goons in the world, metaphorically. There are not a lot of literal goons. There are only a few of us. So if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, Joey Goone. And then our company is utopiaexperience.com. And our team is exceptional at producing conferences. And if you're doing a conference, come check us out. Partner with us.
Absolutely. And you, and as I understand it, you'll give a free event consult to anybody that reaches out and wants to look at your services.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. So attendee experience hacks, sponsorship hacks on how to up level ROI and sponsorships, how to make your main stage technology better, all the things. So whatever you've got going on, reach out to us and we'll do a free event audit and help you make more money.
That's so great. Well, Joey, this has been a huge pleasure. And I'm really grateful that you chose to take some time today and share your philosophies on love, share your experience in working in a family business and a unique experience there, and how you're growing this business. I wish you the best of luck because I just love what you're doing with this. And I hope, at a future GoBundance event, we're seeing that connection made where you're putting on the event and we're seeing some of that amazing stuff. Cause I want to get a massage, and
do we have any GoBundance sponsors on this podcast?
Yeah. No, unfortunately not yet, but we have to work on that. Free massages for anyone who listens to this podcast. That is not absolutely a guarantee.
Love it.
But, no, thank you, Joey. And to everyone else out there, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. If you really like this episode, feel like somebody else needs to hear it, please share this episode. Please give us a rating, and grateful that you tuned in today. Thanks, Joey. Thanks to all of you out there. We'll see you soon.